we play a game?
Why, yes. I believe we shall.
Oh, I got a live one here.
Welcome to Shane Plays Radio, live from Little Rock. Geek Talk Radio from the Mid-South. Shane Plays is a journey into the things we love. We got a great show today. I'm going to be talking Star Trek fan films with David Baity and Neal Hallford. And Neal Hallford is somewhat of an, I don't know if an expert, but he's got some connections on this. And so we'll be looking forward to talking with him. And then the second part of the show, we're going to be talking with David and Neal and also Matt, because they are part of a company that is putting out a game called MegaWars that is super cool. So that's going to be today's show. Really looking forward to it. First, real quick, going to do some housekeeping notes, and then we're going to jump right into a break. And when we come back from the break, we're going to hit it running with the Star Trek fan films. But don't forget that on the blog today and every show day on shaneplays.com, there's a post called Show Notes and links that has links and notes for what we're talking about today. So you can go to shaneplays.com and keep up with what we're talking about, and there's links and whatnot. The show always goes out as a podcast soon after, either tonight or tomorrow. It'll go out as a podcast. That podcast is on my blog at shaneplays.com. I put an audio version of it on YouTube. Look for the Shane Plays channel on YouTube. And it's on iTunes, it's on Stitcher, and a lot of other podcast directories. So make sure to subscribe that way. We are blessed, so blessed to have sponsors for this show. And these sponsors, I appreciate them, and they keep us on the air. But you can also support Shane Plays at Patreon, which is Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/ShanePlays. And for a pledge of as little as $1 per show, you can help support the show. Now, I don't want to guilt you into doing this. You never have to. But if you like what you hear and you want to keep it on the air, you can support us that way. So, last, want to mention that we've got one news item today, and that's it. And that's I'm calling it Shane's Unabashedly Self-Promoting News Item. And I did an article on earlier this week. There was the Sword Coast Legends team did a live stream on Twitch with more information on the Sword Coast Legends game, which is a game, a computer role-playing game based on the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition rules, and it also has really impressive Dungeon Master tools. So go to shaneplays.com, and there's Sword Coast Legends 8/13, because it was on August 13, live stream summary and juicy game details, including, here's one detail I'll throw at you, you got to have a Steam account to play it. So if you want to know more, go to shaneplays.com and look that up. Now, we have on the phones right now, I'm going to introduce them real quick, and then we're going to hit a break, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to geek out on some Star Trek. But first, we have David Baity and Neal Hallford on the lines. David and Neal, are you there?
Yep. Hey, Shane.
Hey, what's going on?
Just sitting here.
Okay, so that's David, and then I know we got Neal waiting there too.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so Neal, I have to ask, in the interest of public safety, did you take your meds today?
We'll have to see.
All right, well, I guess we'll find out. If people don't know, David and Neal they could be a comedy duo, but they're always a lot of fun to talk to. And I'll talk about this more when we talk about MegaWars. But for self-disclosure, I know David, and I'm getting to know Neal, and I have some background with MegaWars. They are a sponsor of the show. That's not the only reason they're on the show today. This was scheduled before they ever became a sponsor, but I'm super pleased to have them as a sponsor as well. So, guys, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to introduce you real quick, then we're going to hit a break. We're going to come back and talk Star Trek. But, David, you are the founder of Crimson Leaf, LLC, which is putting out MegaWars, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
That's right.
And Neal, you are not only a game industry veteran with Betrayal at Krondor and some other games under your belt, but you're also a film industry veteran. And you've got a really cool film out there called The Case of Evil, and you're with Sword and Circuitry Studios, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, tell us just give us the elevator plug pitch, if you will, on Sword and Circuitry, and then we'll hit a break and then come back running.
Just Swords and Circuitry. We're making lots of cool fan-oriented stuff. So if you like science fiction, fantasy, horror, that kind of stuff, we're working on games, films, and all that kind of good stuff. And so we can talk more about that whenever we come back. Okay,
cool. So you got, and I know that you've got two of the things. You got the Case of Evil, and then you're also involved with the Con of Wrath documentary, which is which I learned more about last night. But Kendall, here's what we're going to do. We're going to hit a quick break. Quick break, whatever that means. But we're going to hit a break real quick, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some Star Trek fan films with David and Neal. And at the half hour, we're going to be joined by Matt, who is the CEO of Crimson Leaf. So anyway, we'll have more after the break on Shane Plays Radio.
MegaWars.net. The classic online space strategy game has returned, bigger and better than ever before. Scout the universe and claim your empire. Construct, customize, and launch dozens of different starships. Battle thousands of opponents online in a team-based competition leading to the ultimate battle of the galaxies. Grab your slot today in one of the most hotly anticipated indie games of 2015. Visit MegaWars.net and get options only available during our pre-sale event running now. MegaWars.net.
Privately owned and licensed by the Arkansas State Police, Rock City Alarm Company has been in business since 1996, specializing in sales, installation, servicing, and monitoring of burglar alarms and fire alarms for the state of Arkansas. Rock City Alarm provides service for residential and commercial alarms, and now provides cellular monitoring with remote arm and disarm. Just call John Hardiman at 501-541-8747. That's John Hardiman at 501-541-8747. In business for over 15 years, the Hillcrest Doghouse provides full grooming, bathing, boarding, and daycare services for just about all breeds with knowledgeable and friendly staff, including a licensed groomer with over 10 years experience. The Hillcrest Doghouse uses all natural shampoos, including a pesticide-free flea shampoo. All kennels are situated where we work, which means your companion is rarely left alone, providing the benefit of full interaction with our friendly staff. Additionally, we walk your dog at least 3 times a day to ensure a happy day. Grooming and boarding packages are also available at great prices. The Hillcrest Doghouse is located at 3924 West Markham Street in Little Rock. Call the Hillcrest Doghouse at 501-296-9800. That's 501-296-9800. We're also on Facebook. Find us and like us. Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/ShanePlays.
All right, welcome back to Shane Plays Radio, a journey into the things we love. Get your geek on, and if you're not already a geek, discover your inner geek. So, listen, folks, those sponsors that you just heard from, like I said, we're so blessed to have them. If one, consider supporting them and doing business with them. And two, if you do, make sure to tell them Shane Plays sent you. And if the very first one you heard was, of course, the MegaWars, which is a new sponsor. And we have people from MegaWars on today, which is a super cool MMO that we're going to be talking about the second half of the hour, starting about 1:30. I forgot to give out, if anybody wants to call, you can always call the show. This is live radio at 501-823-0965. That's 501-823-0965. We're going to be talking Star Trek fan films for about the next 15 minutes. So keep that in mind. And you can always tweet me at Shane Plays, and I'll be happy to try to get to your comments and questions on air. So, all right, Neal and David. We've got David Baity and Neal Hallford on. Now, David is a Star Trek fan, but Neal has like some actual connections with some of this we're going to be talking about. And another reason I wanted to do this segment today is MegaWars, the game, has some Star Trek DNA in its history, which we'll learn more about in the second half of the show. So that's why I wanted to do this today. Plus, I kind of like the Star Trek fan films that are out there, and I've been looking for an excuse to do this. So away we go. Now, here's what I've done, guys, and feel free to completely hijack what I'm doing and take it a different direction. But what I've done is on the post, the notes post that's up on ShanePlays.com for today's show, I listed some fan films that either I'm interested in or I've seen. Okay, there's no way we can go over all of them in the next roughly 13, 14 minutes. There's just a lot of stuff out there. But the one I saw, and I'm curious if you guys are even familiar with this one. The very first one I ever saw, and this was in the mid-2000s, was called Star Wreck in the Pirkinning, which was a Finnish movie, actually, which was done really well. Are you guys familiar with that one?
Oh, yeah.
I've heard of that one. I've not actually seen it, but that is one of the more famous ones that's out there in terms of sort of the older generation of them.
Right. Well, the one they did, I guess they had several, and the one that finally kind of got people's attention was in 2005, and it's a parody movie. Okay, the guy's name is Captain Perk, not Captain Kirk, and he's a total jerk, and he ends up in the past. And instead of trying to not dilute the time stream and get back home, he's like, hey, I've got advanced technology. I'm taking over. So it's like, it's really funny. And then it ends up being a parody because after they take over the Earth, they end up getting into a fight with basically Babylon 5. So the movie kind of devolves, if you will, into a big battle with between the Star Trek ships and Babylon 5. So it's actually pretty funny. It's got some really good production values, but I will say I haven't seen it for like 10 years. So it may not hold up, but it really impressed me at the time. And it was really funny. So, and at ShanePlays.com, for all of these we're talking about, I've got the website and if applicable, the YouTube link. So, okay, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that something that a lot of people aren't as aware of, but I am because way back in the day I was a Super 8 filmmaker geek when I was a kid. And one of the first Star Trek fan films was one called Paragon's Paragon. And that film kind of vanished for a number of years, and people are starting, because a lot of people kind of talk about Star Trek Phase 2 or New Voyages, and saying, well, James Cawley's really the one that got the ball rolling. I said, well, no, actually, you've got to go all the way back to the very early 70s, whenever these folks with the Super 8 cameras are running around, and they made this really pretty incredible one, considering they were doing with Super 8 film, and there's no CGI, there's no, whatever, they're doing it old school.
And it's called Paragon's Paragon?
Paragon's Paragon.
I'm looking it up right now. I am not. Are you familiar with this, David?
I hadn't heard of that one. No.
This is why I love talking to people like. This is why I love talking to people like Neal, because Paragon's Paragon highlights on YouTube. Paragon's Paragon Star Trek fan film from 1974.
Yes.
Yeah, I've got to check this out. See, this is why I want to do segments like this, because there's so much good stuff out there that we're not even. I thought I was going back a little bit with Star Wreck. So, yeah.
Well, it basically is as long as there have been,
right.
as long as there have been fans, and they've been doing things not only, with obviously, of course, with their video cameras and their Super 8 cameras back in the day, people doing audio plays, and of course, anyone who's ever been to a Star Trek convention has lived through at least one or two Star Trek skits.
Lived through. I love how you put that, lived through the Star Trek skit.
Yeah, I mean, with the Boy Scouts, we would go out and we did skits about Star Trek all the time, and I'm not going to tell you how long ago that was, but yeah, it was a long time ago.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, Star Trek is just part of our culture and part of our, so people are constantly going to be, riffing on it or doing fan films or playing, out in the woods or whatever. Star Trek endures when there is, and this is what I love about all these fan films, and there have always been fan films, but there's no doubt that the quality is improving, right? Oh, yes. I think because the technology that is used to have desktop publishing, now you've got desktop movie production basically in some ways, but two, the people who have grown up with this stuff, are now like industry professionals and stuff and can bring it to the fan film. So, but I'm definitely going to check it. Go ahead.
I think that Kickstarter has helped that too. Mm-hmm. And Indiegogo, because now fans can actually support the projects. There was really never a way to support a project before. And like, I never said it right. What is Patreon?
Yeah, I don't know if it's Patreon or Patreon. I'm actually wanting to tweet them.
I think it's Patreon, because it's like if I'm going to have a Patreon.
Yeah, I'm going to be a patron, right?
It's just a patron show, Patreon. So
okay, yeah, I think you're right, Neil. But I did want to.
I think that.
Go ahead.
Those are great for fans being able to support things directly. I mean, I don't want to divulge anything, but the Axenar movies are awesome. I mean, I've watched that thing 30 times, and every time it's awesome.
You talking about the prelude to Axenar?
Yeah, the prelude to Axenar.
Yeah, that's on my list to talk about. But I wanted to back up. Neil had said something when he used to be an 8mm film creator geek. The only thing that's gone is the 8mm. Because you're still a filmmaker geek, Neil. I got to throw that out there. So, because you're working on, you've done the Case of Evil, which is really neat, and you're working with the Con of Wrath, which I'm basically a grognard, if you know what that means. It's in gaming terms, they've taken an old French word for old soldier, and now they apply it to gamers. And I'm in my early 40s. I had never heard of this con that melted down in Houston until I went and researched the Con of Wrath last night. But go ahead. It
was kind of a big deal at the time, because back in the day, back before the internet, for those of you who are listening who are a little bit younger, there was a time and place where there was really one place wherever you would hear about science fiction, where you was sort of your central clearinghouse, and that was Starlog magazine.
I remember Starlog.
Starlog magazine was running full-page ads on the back of their magazine. No other convention ever did that, which tells you what a big deal that they were expecting this to be. And of course, they were billing it as this was going to be the ultimate fantasy. It was a crazily ambitious kind of convention they were going to do. Took place two weeks after the release of the Wrath of Khan, and the guys running the convention decided they wanted to not just do the ordinary, well, let's just have a convention and maybe have a couple of the guests come in and sign stuff. They said, let's do a laser light show. We're going to have people come in and with an orchestra and play the music from the film. Walter Koenig had written a one-act play, so they were going to perform it for the first time there on stage. Nichelle was going to sing songs from her most recent album. It was this crazy, basically Star Trek on ice.
Wasn't there something about a flaming planet or a flaming comet?
Yeah, there was one moment in the show that involved, there was a large weather balloon that's suspended over the orchestra, and at one particular point in the show, that they had the laser light show basically ending, and all the lasers would go up and they would hit this weather balloon. And the idea was that they would set off a small charge which would collapse the balloon, and they would turn off, because they had projecting an image of the Earth on it, so it looks like the Earth is just suspended over the audience. It was kind of a cool effect, apparently. But so the lasers go up and they set it off, and the first time they did it, it went just fine, and so it collapses, it vanishes, so it looks like the lasers went up and blew up the Earth. That's kind of cool. For the second night of the show, one of the guys who was running things decided that, you know what, I think it would be nice if we had a little more sparkle whenever... and so this is what happens when you have someone who has just a little bit of knowledge.
Yeah, right.
So they decided, let's add some magnesium to it.
Well, it's also what happens when you fixes what ain't broken. But they added magnesium to which, if people don't know, magnesium burns hot and bright. So,
very hot and bright. And so what happened is that said weather balloon, it popped, but in the process also burst into flames and fell into the audience.
I'm sorry. I don't know why that's so funny. Okay, before I laugh any further, did anybody get hurt?
No. Okay. No one got hurt, thankfully, and actually thankfully to a rather athletic move by one of the organizers who batted it out of the way. Of course, the crazy thing is the audience think it's all part of the show.
Right, they love it. Yeah. All right.
But yeah, so just to give you an idea of the immensity of this is a 40-foot weather balloon.
Right.
So we're not talking.
Yeah,
like
it was there was some flaming wreckage for sure. Well, I have to. We're gonna have Neal on. He's gonna come on his own show here on Shane Plays in the future to talk about this and many other things. But I got to steer us back over to the fan films. But evidently, the Con of Wrath, which they called it that weekend, evidently was a total disaster meltdown. So I'm looking forward to the documentary. And it had like all the big celebrities.
Weekend.
Yeah. What did it say that again?
I said that was just one small catastrophe that happened during the course of that week.
Well, from what I saw at one point, DeForest Kelley went up all white-faced and grassed on somebody and said, save us or something like that.
The Save Us individual is Harv Bennett, the executive producer of the Con of Wrath.
So
the Wrath Con, excuse me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So anyway, moving on. You mentioned Star Trek Phase 2, which was previously New Voyages, and James Cawley. Now, what he started doing, and this was the second fan film I saw. I think I saw Star Wreck, and then I started downloading and watching Phase 2. And James Cawley out of California said, we're going to continue the original series as if it never got canceled.
Yeah.
And so they built a very accurate set, and, they had Star Trek. And some of them have been quite good. And they've had Walter Koenig. They've had, I want to say Hikaru Sulu, George Takei.
They had George Takei came back.
Yeah, so they've had some really good episodes. My favorite of which is Enemy Starfleet. I just love that one. And they've also had a really powerful story called Blood and Ashes, which was basically sort of a metaphor. Yeah, Blood, which was basically sort of a metaphor for the AIDS epidemic.
Yes, which was written by David Gerald.
Was it? Okay, go ahead.
What?
No, so go ahead.
If you are familiar with the original series, David Gerald is the one that gave us The Trouble with Tribbles, and of course wrote on both the original series and on the animated series, and then also had did some stuff for TNG. But what a lot of people don't know about that particular story is that Blood and Fire was actually originally supposed to be produced for TNG. But they had problems basically getting it sort of through the censors at the time. They all kind of felt it was a little too iffy, and then obviously there was the whole plot line with the nephew and everything that wasn't. They still weren't quite ready to go there. We were all about diversity. We're not that diverse yet.
Right. Yeah. And what Neal is referring to, and then we've got to move on to Star Trek Continues, is in Star Trek Phase 2, which there was actually going to be a Star Trek Phase 2 from Roddenberry that never took off. Yeah. And they've worked in, was it Spawn? There's a Vulcan character that they actually worked into the fan film. But anyway, the James Kirk's nephew ends up serving on his ship, and he's gay. And Kirk thinks he wants to be on the ship because he idolizes his uncle, but in reality, he just wants to be on his ship because his lover's on the Enterprise, and his nephew is a red shirt. So anyway, okay, so good stuff. Go check out Star Trek Phase 2. They're still making episodes. They've kickstarted, I think, for another one. Now, Star Trek Continues has come along and is doing the same thing. They said we are going to we are going to pretend that the series never got canceled and keep it going. They've put out some really good stuff. And I was like, why are they going to do it? Star Trek Phase 2 is already doing it, but they're doing some really good stuff. So definitely watch both of them. And according to Michelle Specht, who is one of the actresses on the show, she was on a few weeks ago. And actually, I just found out last night, their next episode is coming out at the end of September. It's going to premiere at Salt Lake City Comic-Con. And early October, the cast of Star Trek Continues is coming on Shane Plays. So we'll be talking to them after their next episode.
Awesome.
Yeah, so looking forward to that.
That's great.
Yeah, looking forward to that. But, Star Trek Continues is really good stuff. I guess the best thing I could say about it at this point is go check it out. I mean, don't say, well, I'm only going to watch Continues or I'm only going to watch Phase 2. Watch them both. I mean, they're both doing good work. Now, one thing that Michelle Specht said was, one of the Roddenberry, I don't know if it was Gene Roddenberry's son or his nephew, they had basically shared with Star Trek Continues that they consider Star Trek Continues to be canon.
Rod.
Was it Rod? Okay.
It's Rod. It's Majel and Gene's son.
Okay, so I mean that's CBS isn't saying that, right?
Yeah.
But the son is, and they can, and it also has. James Doohan's son plays Scotty.
Yeah, he plays Scotty.
Yeah.
I think that would make it even more perfect if they had Leonard's boy come in and play Spock.
Right. Who was doing
wow.
Yeah, that would be really cool. And
that would be good.
Leonard Nimoy's son. Go ahead.
Well, Leonard Nimoy's son just did that Kickstarter. Was that successful?
Yeah.
I
it was
that.
successful. Yeah, he's doing a documentary on both his father's work and the character of Spock. So,
yes.
All right, real quick, and then I want to take us to a break so we have plenty of time to talk about MegaWars. There's two movies out there that I hear a lot about, but I don't know a lot about. One is Star Trek Renegades, which they basically, the fans have put together a pilot that they want, like CBS or whoever, to consider making into a show. It's called Star Trek Renegades, and it's got like Tuvok and Walter Koenig and some other like Star Trek veterans in it. And the movie just premiered, but I don't think it's available for like public consumption yet.
No, they're kind of working on trying to get it into other things, but right now they had a premiere at up in LA like a week or two ago. And so the other thing is of course the other one of course being Axenar,
right.
Which is still in production and won't be done for a little while. But they just started filming a little while ago. They had Prelude Axenar, which was basically sort of was a teaser they kind of did for the Kickstarter, which was more like a documentary format kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which Axenar is a full-on sort of action movie, and so that's Robert Myers-Burnett baby, and he's been a really important player in the Trek world. He's always got a lot of things to say. Robert's an interesting character.
Okay. Well, yeah. So, and David had mentioned earlier that he's watched Prelude to Axenar like 8 billion times. So, is there?
Yeah.
We're about to go to break. Was there anything you want to say about Axenar, David, before we do?
Yeah. If anybody has not seen it, it's up on YouTube. You've got to watch it.
And it
is really good.
From what I understand, it tells the 4 Years' War, the Romulan War. Is that correct? That's actually like kind of like before the original series. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, actually, if you do a little bit of research, you can find out, where Axenar came. It's mentioned throughout all the series in places, and they're always referring back to it. And then they recreated what they felt the battle at Axenar was. And it's not about the Romulan War. It's about It's about the big war with the Klingons.
Klingon. Okay. For some reason, I was thinking it was Romulans. Klingons. But then I was like, because in the original series, they kind of encounter the Romulans for the first time. So obviously, anyway, all right. I'm going to take us to a break, and then when we come back, it's going to be all MegaWars for the rest of the show. So everybody stay tuned. We're going to have David, Neal, and also Matt is going to be joining us, the CEO of Crimson Leaf, to talk about MegaWars when we come back.
Comic book lovers, Michael Tierney's local comic book stores meet all of your comic book needs with friendly service. Visit the comic book store on Treasure Hill Road in Little Rock or Collector's Edition on JFK Boulevard in North Little Rock. And don't forget to click on over to the wildstars.com website. I personally have been a customer of Michael's since the mid-'80s, and I trust him for my reserve list still today. Michael knows comics. In addition to being in business for 34 years, he has written multiple columns for comic magazines, is an Overstreet price guide advisor, and publishes his own comic book series, The Wild Stars. Trust me, these stores are run by a comic book lover for comic book lovers. Remember, for all of your comic book needs with friendly service and to get your copies of The Wild Stars, make sure to visit the comic book store on Treasure Hill Road in Little Rock or Collector's Edition on JFK Boulevard in North Little Rock, and visit thewildstars.com to learn more.
Call Chapman Service today for all your air conditioning and electrical concerns. 0% financing till January 2020 for a limited time. Voted best of the best for 5 years in a row. It's hard to stop a train. Chapman Service, all you want in an air conditioning and an electrical company, nothing you don't.
Did you know that your business can provide its employees with the same benefits packages as even the largest Fortune 500 companies, often at no direct cost to you, the business owner, and while saving money at the same time? If you've always thought that you would like to offer those big company benefits to your employees but thought that there was no way, let our team at the Make 'em Teague Agency come by and show you how it can be possible and how simple it is to put into place. We offer major medical and group and individual plans, on-or-off exchange, dental and vision, life products, cancer, accident, and more. These benefits create that ever-so-priceless commodity known as loyalty. And yes, we are ACA certified. We even offer these same benefits on the individual basis if you're just a one-person entrepreneur or making things happen on your own. Give us a call today at 501-838-6827 to schedule your no-obligation on-site consultation. The Make 'em Teague Agency is serving all of Arkansas and surrounding states. 501-838-6827. Give us 1% of your trust, and we'll earn the other 99.
JLM Tree Servicing can take care of your tree servicing needs. Contact them at 501-351-7714, online at jlmservicing.com, and on Facebook. Do you have limbs touching the roof or killing your grass with too much shade? Leaves collecting in the pool or gutters? Need to remove that unsightly dead tree? JLM Servicing is insured, provides free estimates, serves all of Central Arkansas, and doesn't collect payment until job well done. JLM Tree Servicing, 501-351-7714. Find them online at jlmservicing.com or on Facebook.
Welcome back to Shane Plays Radio, a journey into the things we love. Get your geek on or discover your inner geek. On the phones right now, got three very cool people from Crimson Leaf LLC, which are putting out a very cool game called MegaWars. Let me introduce them real quick, and then I'm going to step back and let them tell us about what they're doing. But we've got David Baity, who's on the line.
Hey, Shane.
Yeah. Hey, what's going on, buddy? So,
we're here talking about MegaWars.
MegaWars, about to be MegaWars. So David, if you didn't listen to the first part of the show, is a passionate fan turned founder of a game company to bring a game he loves to update it to the now. Neal Hallford is a game industry veteran who's on board, who had evidently told David that he had game gold, which I'm looking to learn or forward to learning more about. And then we have Matt Parisi. Is it Parisi, Matt? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
You got it. You're pronouncing it correctly.
And Matt Parisi is the CEO, so he has the difficult task of being the adult in the room. So, guys, all three of you, welcome. What I want to do now, I'm going to step back, and I want Matt to introduce what Crimson Leaf is and what MegaWars is trying to do, and then I want David and Neal to tell us more about why the game is cool and all the cool things that are going on with it.
Yeah, thanks, Shane. MegaWars is a game that was played. It had a cult following back in the 70s and 80s and even into the 90s. And David, as I'm sure you'll hear shortly, was an avid player and one of the first players in the game. And it was a completely text-based game at the time. And he loved it so much, it actually went out. It disappeared for a bit of time. And now we're bringing it back. So the team here on the line, plus a few others, all talented individuals, we've been working for up to 6 years now on the code, in the past year and a half on some of the business to get it back to where we know the past players will love MegaWars, and we're really close to releasing it, and I am very, very excited about it.
Yeah, I am too. You know, I gave some disclosure at the beginning of the show. I'll give it again. I've gotten to know David over the past year or two. I'm getting to know Neal. Matt, I'm getting to know you. I have some history with being interested in and talking about MegaWars, and you guys are now a sponsor on the show, but I want to make it very clear, having you on the show was set up long before you became a sponsor. So, I just want to make that clear to folks. And at some point, I want to play again. Kendall, can you dig up? We don't have to do it right at this second, but before their segment's over, I want to play their ad one more time, that MegaWars ad. But anyway, I'm interested in seeing how this game is going to go. And I know it's going to be good, but I'm interested in helping promote it and help it, reach the public. So go ahead.
And Shane, I have to add, I don't come from a gaming background. I'm not a gamer, but my goodness, this game has totally blown my socks off. It is something that I can see how people and the past players got so involved and so addicted to this game. It's pretty wild, and I hope that your listeners, you want to take part in that as we move forward.
Okay, and let me throw out there a couple of things. One, people can go to MegaWars.net, and right now pre-sales are going on. There's going to be further sales and other things happening, but right now there's pre-sales that you can get in on at MegaWars.net. But what it is, it's a 30-day massively multiplayer online game, a battle arena, if you will, even though it's not quite the battle arenas that people imagine. It's a reincarnation of MegaWars 3, and it provides a unique strategy/alliance gaming experience that can't be found in today's market. And it's really, a lot of people think that EVE Online is the game that's determined by the players, but this game takes it to a next level. And I'm going to hand it over to David now to tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, some of the interesting things of we talked about the team management, and we don't see that kind of thing in games nowadays. If someone else on the team scouts a star system, everyone on the team gets the data from that. So it's far beyond just a single player game because the universe is massive. I mean, in with 10,000 players playing together, you need that data, and you need to know where the enemy planets are so that you can go bust them and that kind of thing. So there's some aspects of this game that just aren't available in anything else.
Well, what I've heard...
The Star Trek segment, let me real quick, the Star Trek segment was perfect because MegaWars was based off of Deck Wars. And Deck Wars was based off of the very first Star Trek game that was ever created at the University of Irvine, on a stolen login that they created on their computers, which is really kind of funny to think about, back in 1971.
That's kind of Kirk-like. It was done on a stolen login. So
yeah,
not a reappropriated login because he doesn't like to lose. So now Deck Wars, that's DEC Wars, right? Because there was the DEC computers. Okay. So David, I've heard you tell this story a couple of times, and I think this really nails a lot of what MegaWars is about. Other than the fact that the resetting every 30 days is an interesting component. But you've told a story I've heard a couple of times about two people who got into a fight in the game, not in real life. You know, they were fighting in the game, and the way they resolved the fight was very what's called these days emergent and very interesting, and kind of you can't program this kind of stuff. You know, you let the characters resolve it. Do you know what I'm talking about, this story?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We had two players in space, and what happens is when you log off, you're gone. You aren't there anymore. So what you do is you build up the defenses on your planet, so if someone attacks it while you're away, they won't be able to take the planet if it's built up enough. So this guy was going to take this other guy's planet, so he had spent all day, I mean, seriously, all evening, started, I guess, at 9 o'clock, and got all the way to about 3 a.m. hauling fighters to take this planet, to build up enough resources in the same star system to attack this guy's planet. And he had been sneaky about it so no one knew, because if you see someone in your star system, then you just kill them and not let them take your base. It's very, very simple. But if you can get away with building up the fighters on a neighboring planet, then you can attack and take over that guy's planet. So this guy had done all the work, worked all evening and night, into the wee early of the morning, and was getting ready to do the actual attack itself, and the guy came online. And it's like, oh, my gosh, there he is, right in the same system with me. And he killed him. Boom, dead. And the guy goes, look, you know I'm there. You know my planet is beside yours. I can't attack yours. So if I try to move these resources back out of that star system, you're going to kill me anyway. So why don't we just make a deal? I will sell you the fighters that are on that planet, and you can just move them to yours, and I won't have to haul them out and you kill me a bunch of times and that kind of thing. So the guy goes, yeah, you're kidding me. He goes, no, serious. I want to go to bed. Let me sell you all this fighter. I'll sell you, I think it was like $1 million or something. I don't know what it ended up being price-wise. But they worked out a deal where the guy just bought the fighters from him and the other guy went to bed.
See, and that is truly emergent. Like, they talk about emergent today, but that's letting the players dictate the game and the game style, and I love that. So it's combining this what some people call retro. I still feel of it as the way the games are, because I remember these games back in the day, with letting the players really invest in what the game is. So I think that's really cool. I want to come back to talking about the 30-day aspect of it. But before I do that, I want to bring Neal in. Now, Neal, you are a game industry veteran. A lot of people know you from Betrayal at Krondor, which was a really well done game, and your writing skills are so strong that Raymond E. Feist, that game was based on, said, "Man, this guy's great," and he adapted what you did into a novel of his own. But you've got more experience beyond just that. What David has mentioned a couple of times that you took a look and said, "Man, you got gaming gold here." So what is it about this game that excites you, Neal?
Well, I think one of the things that I kind of appreciated about it is that you called out Eve a little bit earlier, and Eve is on one hand is a technological impressive feat, just in terms of the sheer amount of stuff that's out there and all the stuff that's going on. But the flip side of the coin is that is the slowest, most tedious game in the world, because they want to keep you online for as long as possible, because they're charging you every month. It's a persistent state universe, which means that they want you to be on for years and years and years. And so they do everything they can to make sure that everything creeps. Now, that said, every once in a while they have an epic battle, and actually there was a year or two ago where actually one of their battles actually made the news on CNN, because it was, I can't remember what it was, but it was some unbelievable number of people that all were playing simultaneously, and it jammed up their servers. But the one thing that I really liked about what David was talking about, and something that honestly is an issue that I think a lot of designers have been trying to tackle effectively over the past 10 or 15 years, is the problem of you have the MMO or have a game which is a long-term thing where the guy who's been in the game forever, there's no way for someone who is a newbie to come in and challenge or play with someone who's been playing for forever. He's going to automatically kick your butt all the time, for the rest of eternity, as long as he's not talking about.
Because he's grinded past you, basically.
Yeah, he's grinded past you. He's level 70. He can basically kill you by spitting on you.
Right, and in Eve is very PvP. Anybody can attack anybody at any time for any reason, even if you think you're in a safe area. But the thing with Eve, it seems to be one of the more player-driven games out there, but it's done in a very, there's all these player councils and this and that and the other, and they work with CCP, I think the company behind it, and then they implement changes of the game. With MegaWars, all that's removed. It's completely what the player and the other players decide to do between themselves.
What I think what at least I have been my objective while talking to David about is to move something that feels closer to being like playing a game of Risk or chess or whatever, is the fact that you have all of this stuff that you have the diplomacy-like stuff where you're making deals with the people on the fellow planets, and the story that he talked about before is a perfect example. But you're doing kind of diplomacy kind of things, and you're building up your planet. So you get combinations of, here's elements of RTS, here are elements of sort of a strategy game, here are elements of a role-playing game. And we have all these elements, but you always get this chance of, there's the big game at the end of the month, where everybody's trying to get towards that last day, and you have the chance to basically be the division championship. Whenever Matt and I were kind of chatting about things, and we were talking about ways to kind of describe what this is like, I said, this is like the Super Bowl, or like
the World Series in that way.
World Series, yes. And so the great thing is that you have the opportunity to win these smaller battles, and then at the end of the year, and we were talking about that this thing resets every 30 days, then at the end of the year, there's the super massive battle where basically you got to go in for the grand championship, and at the end of the year, someone gets named, Emperor of the Galaxy. And so you don't get that in any of these other games that are out there. You don't get the opportunity to be the guy who's sitting at the top of the heap.
Right. Okay. I really think that the 30-day resetting aspect is really one of the things that's definitely going to help set this game apart, because you can't just grind to level 70 and then declare yourself the best. You got to prove it every 30 days, and everybody starts over at 0. But here's what I want to do, guys. I'm going to play your ad again, and I'm going to throw it. People go to MegaWars.net. Pre-sales are going on for this game right now. I'm going to play your ad again. When we come back, I want to talk about more of that 30-day resetting aspect, and why, I don't think that's the only unique thing about the game, but I think it's very unique, especially in today's market. So, Kendall, go ahead and let's throw that MegaWars ad out there again, please, sir.
MegaWars.net. The classic online space strategy game has returned, bigger and better than ever before. Scout the universe and claim your empire. Construct, customize, and launch dozens of different starships. Battle thousands of opponents online in a team-based competition, leading to the ultimate battle of the galaxies. Grab your slot today in one of the most hotly anticipated indie games of 2015. Visit MegaWars.net and get options only available during our pre-sale event running now. MegaWars.net.
Okay, so that's the ad again that's actually running on the show every week. Go to MegaWars.net, folks. Like I said, you can learn more about the game. You can sign up for pre-sales right now. So the 30-day resetting aspect, really quick, I want to talk about that, and then I want to talk about the timeline. And I know nothing's totally set in stone with development. I want to talk about the timeline. We got to wrap up here in about 4 or 5 minutes. So, in fact, we'll probably hear some music going. Just go ahead and keep talking. You don't have to be quiet when the music starts. But tell me more about the 30-day resetting aspect. And then also I think that there's side games, like you can pay extra and play side games or something. And then I want to hear about the timeline of, like, alpha, beta to the public, that sort of thing. So I guess, David, will you take the 30-day resetting aspect, and I'll let Matt take the timeline?
Actually, everybody on the planet understands 30-day resets. It's very simple. Baseball games. Every single baseball game has a time limit or a win condition. That's what we've done with MegaWars. And then after you play multiple games, you start to build up a reputation as a player, as a team, and that reset capability allows people to actually win. I mean, imagine Monopoly. You're playing Monopoly with a group of friends. Somebody comes up and says, "Hey, can I join?" It doesn't work that way. So, yeah. Let's see. What was your other question?
I wanted to I do have another question about the timeline, but tell me, there's like the Emperor of the Galaxy and the President of the Galaxy. How does that work?
Yeah. What we have is you have the President, and that is the individual score, like the MVP, for example. We've got Mike Trout. I'm an Angel fan. But
okay.
You've got the MVP, who is the president of the empire, is probably the best way to say it. And then the leader of the most powerful team at the end of every war becomes the emperor of the empire at that point. All right?
But these are basically bragging rights, right?
These are bragging rights, but you have earned it, okay? And then the game resets. Everybody starts afresh, and just like Neal mentioned, someone who's been playing MegaWars for 30 years, and it is possible, we have people who've been playing MegaWars for 30 years, can come in, but everybody's the same on reset night.
Okay, I like that.
You do have that power of a newbie can make all the difference in a war.
I love that. Okay, so...
Yeah, because there are capabilities that newbies have that the most senior veterans do not, and that's what makes the game unique as well.
Oh, that's interesting. Like what? Real quick, like what kind of capability would that be?
That would be moving fighters, moving food from planet to planet. That's one thing that some of the newbies can do that the veterans can't.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, what we've got is there's some where you establish your home planet depends on how much time is devoted and your skills, and you can change that at any time during the middle of a game. You can upgrade to a higher level of play at that point. But those are kind of like classes, but not. I don't like using that word. but you have that kind of capability.
Okay.
Time frame, we are in the alpha testing phase of the game. The game has been played as a text-based game for about 6 years. We had the community come together, the ones that played the original game on CompuServe, and helped us create the text-based game. This is how it looks. This is how it feels. Do you remember how this worked? And the community helped us build it up over 6 years. And now we're taking the challenge of making a text-based game graphical, and that's the biggest thing that Neal is helping us with now. Okay, how do we display, planets? Right. Because it's all just been spreadsheets before.
And we're talking fully 3D, right? Because I've seen some of your ship models, and I've seen some of the player model or the planet models, and they look great. So, yeah. Now, from a business perspective, Matt, is there? I mean, what do y'all do? I know you're doing pre-sales. Is there going to be a Kickstarter in the future? And I've heard at one time y'all had speculated on doing a Kickstarter that the minute the Kickstarter was over, the game began. Is that still something that's in the works?
Yeah, that card is certainly still on the table. And if we do go the Kickstarter route, one unique thing that I believe sets us apart from other game Kickstarters is that, like you mentioned, Shane, the minute the Kickstarter ends, within 1 hour, you can be playing the game, or you can be reaping the reward at whatever level you supported us at. So if you supported us at level X, and part of that was you're allowed into the first round of beta after the Kickstarter ends, you're playing that beta within an hour.
That's amazing.
So that doesn't. I don't believe that's out there right now, and that is something that
I've never heard of it. I've never heard of a Kickstarter that the minute was over, the game began. Speaking of things being over, time is a predator that stalks us all our lives, and we have about 40 seconds. So, guys, I appreciate you being on. MegaWars.net. We got David Baity, Matt Parisi, Neal Hallford. Guys, we're going to go out. I forgot to play this. It's a tradition. Anytime that we talk Star Trek, Kendall's going to play our Star Trek soundbite. I apologize in advance, and please don't sue me for medical or therapy you need for this.
Across the universe. On the Starship Enterprise, undertaking her. Star trekking across the universe. Slowly going forward, 'cause we can't find reverse.
All right, guys, have a great week. Thank you so much for being on, and thanks everybody for listening to Shane Plays Radio, a journey into things we love.